אילו פינו מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כיילות. ואילו פינו מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כיילות. אין אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך ולברך את שמך מלך מלכי המלכים, מלך מלכי המלכים, מלך מלכי המלכים. אין אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך ולברך את שמך מלכנו. אין אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך ולברך את שמך מלכנו.
אילו פינו מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כיילות. ואילו פינו מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה וידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כיילות. מספיקים להודות לך ולברך את שמך מלך מלכי המלכים, מלך מלכי המלכים, מלך מלכי המלכים. אין אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך ולברך את שמך מלכנו. אין אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך ולברך את שמך
Shabbat Shalom. We invite you to open your Sidurim on page 186. Shkan Tefillah, page 186. We start our morning davening. And we hope that throughout the morning, each of us will find some moment of connection, of prayer. Shabbat Shalom and Boker Tov. As we were starting our davening and the faces started to pop up in Zoom. I know that some are joining us in Facebook and also in YouTube, and we are grateful for your presence there too. I was thinking of our Shabbat morning Shacharit when we are physically present at TVT, and I was looking at the hour and said, like, it never happened. It never happened to us that we start on time. Like, we always start 10 or 15 minutes later, right? Like, that's our custom. And since we are online, we are actually pretty much on time. And what a thing, what a difference. So I would say that I miss being late together for Shabbat. So we'll take a moment to acknowledge the beauty of our community and also the transformation of our community and the beauty that we create together with those connecting from different places and those that have become over the last year a part of our community, and those that have been here for many, many years. We enter this sanctuary saying, "Ma tovu alecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Israel." How wonderful are your tents, Jacob, your houses, but more than your houses, the homes that we have built. And on page 92. חסדך עבור ביתך אשתחווה לך על קודשך ביראתך אדוני אהבתי מהום ביתך ומהום משכן כבודך ואני אשתחווה ואכרע אברך לפני אדוני עושי ואני תפילתי היא לך אדוני את רצון אלוהים ברוב חסדך ענני באמת אישך. We turn our study to page 194 as we recite the blessing for the well functioning of our bodies. And I invite you to take a moment for yourself, to close your eyes, and to think of your body, the holy container of our existence, and to focus on its well-being and our well-being. Maybe to think of your shoulders. Think of what you are carrying in this time of your life. And to allow them to relax a little bit in this morning of Shabbos. Or just to acknowledge them. To be grateful for their work and for their ability to carry. ברוך אתה אדוני, רופא כל בשר ומפליא לעשות. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. We're on page 196, the blessing for our souls. נשמה שנתת בי בהוראים אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי בהוראים אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי Source of all creation, sovereign of all souls. Praise are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and the breath of humankind. Baruch atah Adonai asher biyado, nefesh kol chai, baruch kol basar ish. We turn to page 198 for the blessings, for the daily miracles, Birkot HaShachar. And I invite you to reflect on them and also to let them go through your body.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has given the mind the ability to distinguish day from night.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who opens the eyes of the blind.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who frees the captive.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who lift up the fallen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who stretches the earth over the water.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who strengthen our steps.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who clothes the naked.
Amen. Baruch Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, who gives strength to the weary.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who removes sleep from our eyes, slumber from our eyelids.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, who has created all human beings equal.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שעשני בת חורים.
And the last three blessings of the daily miracles, we express our gratitude for being who we are, for being Jews. And after this week in which we saw people wearing these shirts with the 6MWE, 6 million were enough, or Camp Auschwitz, we look at those curses and those insults with blessings. We try to focus on what we do and how we bring goodness to the world by just being who we are and being proud of who we are and bringing Ruach, Spirit, to our lives, to our country, and to our world. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שעשני ישראל האמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, עוזר ישראל בגבורה. אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, עוזר ישראל בתפארה. אמן. אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר ציוונו לעסוק בדברי תורה. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with the mitzvot, commanding us to engage with the words of Torah. וערבנה אדוני אלוהינו את דברי תורתך בפינו ובפי עמך בית ישראל, בני אנחנו בצאצאינו, בצאצאי עמך בית ישראל, כולנו יודעי שמך. ולומדי תורתך לשמם. Adonai our God, let the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths, and the mouths of all your people Israel, so that we, our descendants, and the descendants of all your people Israel may know you by studying your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Adonai, who teaches Torah to your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, המלמד תורה לעמו Israel. Page 206.
These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principal remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all.
We turn our theory into page 212 for the blessing for the Psukei de Simbra. Shamar b'ya'olam baruch hu.
Baruch Shemo, Baruch Oseh Bereshit, Baruch Omer Ve'oseh, Baruch Gozer Umekayem, Baruch Merachem al haaretz, Baruch Merachem
על הבריות, ברוך משלם, שכר טוב לרעב, ברוך חי לעד, וקיים לנצח, ברוך פורק ומציל, ברוך הוא Yada lay 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 lay. Source of praise, we extol you and proclaim your sovereignty, for you are the source of life in the universe. One God, life of the universe. Praise and glorious ruler, your name is eternal. Baruch atah Adonai melech meulai batishbachoi rai 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 Page 214. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, יאללה לי 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 לי. מזמור שיר
ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד מבוא בחסדיך ואמונתך בלילות. עלי הסור ועלי נבל, עלי דיון בכינור, עלי הסור ועלי נבל, עלי דיון בכינור.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, יאללה לי 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 לי.
צדיק אדומו יפרח, הארץ בלבונו תשגה, שתולים בבית אדוני, וקבוצות אלוהינו יפריחו, ינובון בשיבה, ושנים רננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני, צורים אלוהיו לתבוא.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, די 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 די. We're on page 215. אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יהללוך סלע. Happy are those who dwell in your house. We are reminded that happy are those who build that house. Right? That joy is not something that happens to us. Joy is something that we need to work through. We don't always manage our life circumstances. But we still have the ability to build joy, to build and to decide how we want to respond, how we want to interact with those life circumstances. We're on page 215. אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו, אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו. Let's see if we find some joy in speed. אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו, אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אשרי יושבי ביתך עוד יהללוך סלה, אשרי יושבי ביתך עוד יהללוך סלה, אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו, אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו. תהילת לדוד, ארומך לו היה מלך בשם, ויברך שמך לעולם ועד.
בכל יום אברכך ויעללה שמך לעולם ועד.
גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, בגדולתו אין חקר.
דור לדור ישבח מעשיך וגבורותיך יגידו.
על כבוד הודיך ודברי נפלותיך שיחה.
וזוז נורותיך יאמרו, גדולתך ספרנה.
זכר לטובך יביאו וצדקתך ילננו. חנון ברחום אדוני.
ערך אפיים וגדל חסד.
טוב אדוני לכל ורחמיו על כל מעשיו.
יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך וחסידיך יברכוך.
כבוד מלכותך יאמרו בגבורתך ידברו.
להודיע לבני אדם גבורותיו וכבוד נדל מלכותו.
מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, ממשלתך בכל דור ודור.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
עיני כל אליך ישברו ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעיתו. פותח את ידיך
ומשביע לכל חי רצון.
צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו וחסיד בכל מעשיו.
קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו לכל אשר יקראו מאמת.
רצון ידף יעשה ושבתם ישמע ויושיעם.
שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו ואת כל רשעים ישמיד.
תהילת אדוני ידבר פיhi ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה ואתה בעד עולם. הללויה. We're on page 218. כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה. כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללויה. נשמת כל חי, תברך את שמך, אדוני אלוהינו ברוח כל בשר, תפארת רומן זכרך מלכנו תמיד. God of the first and the last, God of all creatures, Master of all generations, who is praised in a multitude of praises, who guides the world with abundant loving kindness and all creatures with mercy. Adonai neither slumbers nor sleeps. God awakens the sleeping, arouses those who slumber, gives speech to the mute, and God loosens the bonds of captives. God supports the fallen and strengthens those who are bent over. You alone do we acknowledge. We're on page 220.
אילופינו מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה בידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כאיילות
אילופינו מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה בידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים
ורגלינו קלות כאיילות אין אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך ולברך את שמך
מלך מלכי המלכים, מלך מלכי המלכים, מלך מלכי המלכים. אילופינו מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה בידינו פרוסות כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות כאיילות. אילופינו מלא שיר הקיים ולשוננו רינה בידינו פרוסות
כנשרי שמיים ורגלינו קלות
כאיילות. For every mouth will acknowledge you, and every tongue pledge homage to you, every knee bend in your presence. Every upright person shall bow before you, every heart will revere you, and every inmost thought will sing to your name. Let all my bones exclaim, who is like you, Adonai? Bless Adonai, O my soul, and let my inner being praise your holy name. We are on page 222. שוכנד מרום בקדוש שמו, בכתוב רנניהו צדיקים באדוני, לישרים נבע תהילה, בפי ישרים תתהלל, ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון חסידים תתרומם, ובקרב קדושים תתקדש, ובמקהלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל, ורינה את פר שמך מלכנו, בכל דור ודור. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נאה, אדוני אלוהינו באלוהי אבותינו באמותינו, שירו שבחה, הלל וזמרה, עוז וממשלה, נצח גדולה וגבורה, תהילה ותפארת, קדושה ומלכות, וברכות בהודעות, מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול ותשבחות, אל ההודעות אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך אלכי העולמים. יתגדל בהתקדש מרבה, ועל מה דברה חילותה, וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב באמרו אמן. יש מרבה מבורך לעולם ולעול בעלמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח יתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה להילה מן כל ברכתה בשילתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמיד אמרה באמרו Amen. At this point we turn our Sidurim to page 226.
ברכו את אדוני
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oy 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 yotzer or uborech choshech עושה שלום ובורא את הכל ידאי דאי ידאי דאי 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 ידאי דאי 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 אוי 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 שבס אוי 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 שבס Shabbos, oy 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 oy, ay 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 ay, amil haaretz, כל העדרים עליה ברחמים ובטובו מחדש, בכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית. In your goodness you daily renew creation, how numerous are your works, Adonai. In wisdom you formed them all, filling the earth with your creatures. Be praised, Adonai, our God, for the excellent work of your hands, and for the lights you created. May they glorify you. Shine a new light upon Zion, that we all may swiftly merit its radiance. Baruch atah Adonai. Blessed are you, Adonai, creator of all heavenly light, Yotzer HaMeorot. רבה אהבתנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חמלה גדולה ויתרה עמלת עלינו. You have loved us with an everlasting, a deep love. And we ask for the ability to live our lives well, understanding that there are many paths to fulfill the mitzvah of living a life of holiness. But that there is an invitation there, an opportunity for us, for each of us, to find a path. Ve'areneinu b'toratecha v'davek liveinu b'mitzvotecha. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah. Focus our minds in your mitzvot. Unite our hearts in love and reverence for your name. Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth and lead us upright to our land. For you, O God, work wonders. You chose us truly. You drew us near to your great name, that we may acknowledge you, declaring you one love. Praise be you, Adonai, who chooses your people Israel in love. Baruch atah Adonai, Abucher be'amo Israel be'ahava. On page 232. Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Adonai Echad. On page 234.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בם בשבתך בביתך ובמלאכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Adonai said to Moses as follows: Speak to the Israelite people and instruct them to make for themselves fringes on the corners of their garments throughout the ages. Let them attach a cord of blue to the fringe at each corner. That shall be your fringe. Look at it and recall all the commandments of Adonai and observe them, so that you do not follow your heart and eyes in your lustful urge.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת, אמת ויציב, בחביב בן רב אדיר בטוב ביפה, דבר עשה עלינו לעולם בהן. From Egypt you redeemed us, freeing us from bondage. God humbles the proud, raises the lowly, frees the imprisoned, redeems the afflicted, helps the oppressed. answering our people when we cry out. Praise to God Most High. Blessed is God and deserving of blessing. In great joy, Moshe, Miriam, and all Israel responded with song to you, all of them proclaiming, "Who is like you, O God? Mi hamocha ba'elim Adonai." We're on page 240. נהדר בקודש,
נורא תהילות אוסף אליך, נורא תהילות אוסף אליך.
שירה חדשה שיפכו גאולים, לשמך על שפתיים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ובנינו בך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. If you are able to rise, we invite you to do so for Tfilat Amidah. Just a word about Tfilat Amidah. During Tfilat Amidah, we try to allow the words of our tradition to help us find the words of our heart. We try to find focus. We try to find our core. We are so overwhelmed sometimes by our own thoughts. And in Tfilat Amidah, we try to fine-tune ourselves. Try to fine-tune our souls. We try to find the word we need to say. And for some reason, we are not being able to identify. I invite you to allow the words of our Siddur, if you are following a Siddur, or the words of your heart, your Tfilah Shebalev, to become present in your mind, your heart, and then in your actions. Adonai, שפתי תפתח ופי תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips,
that my mouth may declare your praise.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, אלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל, אלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, בקונה הכל, בסוחר חסידי אבות באימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה, מלך חוסר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה, רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני יפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית מחייב ומשמיח ישועה, בנאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאיך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו, אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני במקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם,
אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור, הללויה.
נדון נגיד לך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נגדיש בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם בעת. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם, ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי
שבת שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש.
Continue with תפילת עמידה in silence. We're pages 252 and 260. וצהרנו אלוהינו מלך ישראל, בתפילתם בבת תקבל, בתהילה רצון. מודים ברוך השם אלוהינו ולא יעבודנו במותנו, אלא בצורכנו. שים שלום תבוא לכם. words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, the rock and my redeemer. We are at the bottom of page 260.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. So for those who don't know, today is the anniversary of the passing of Debbie Friedman. It's her yahrzeit. So we decided to insert a couple of melodies beautiful melodies that she wrote. I think we did, I don't even know what we did. We decided that we were going to do some Debbie Friedman, so we did. Her melody for Mi Hamocha, her melody for the Shema, one of her melodies for Beshambro, I'm having a moment, and her beautiful melody for Oseh Shalom. But also in Shabbat Shirah, on January 29th, we will probably be doing a service almost completely with Debbie Friedman melodies. So it's going to be interesting. We are working on that. So we'll get into the section of our Torah service. It's going to be slightly different. We don't have a real Sefer, a physical Sefer Torah. Not yet. We might change that at some point. But we want to have the communal experience of the gathering and the reading around the Torah. So we'll take some of the components of the Torah service as we will dedicate ourselves to the reading, to the study of Torah, and to the gathering that the Torah service, the communal gathering that the Torah service allows us to do. So I invite you, if you have a Siddur, to go to page 364. Just to have the taste. We are not going to be taking a physical book. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, udvar Adonai miYerushalayim. Adonai הגדולה והגבורה, התפארת בהנצח בהאור, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה, והמתנשא לכל ברור. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו בהשתחוו להקודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו בהשתחוו להקודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. טוב, let's talk some Torah. Noga, can you help me with the original sound switch? Thank you. I know it's hard to see that, but I am imprisoned here by a music stand, a console, the guitar, and it's kind of difficult to move. So, thank God I have Noga to help me out to switch the different sound modes that Zoom requires in order to sing or to speak. Can you hear me well? Terrible? Too much sound? No? Less sound, Mark is saying. Okay, I don't even know how to do that. I can try it. Now? It's now better? More decent? Okay. There is lots of echo. I can manage that echo, I think. How about now? Yes? Okay. It's good to have the Jewish people in your face to tell you, to guide you through the desert of virtual communication. So, as we said yesterday, we are starting the reading of the book of Shemot, Exodus. And I want to share something that we said yesterday and then share another idea, a different one. But what we learn at the beginning of the book of Exodus is that the reality has changed for the people of Israel, right? Joseph died, and this new king had no idea about Joseph and felt threatened by this bunch of strangers that were becoming bigger in his kingdom. And so he thought that the best possible approach in order to have some regulation over that population was to kill the male babies. We'll get back to that in 2 more minutes. We know that one of those babies is going to be Moshe, and eventually Moshe is going to be tasked with the work of being God's representative, God's prophet, in order to redeem the people of Israel from bondage in Egypt. And we spoke yesterday about this conversation, this first conversation between God and Moshe, in which Moshe tells him, no, you are sending me to redeem these people, or to tell these people that you are going to redeem them. I need to tell them your name. How should I introduce you? And they go through this ping pong of the God of your parents, and then God says, no, say a yeah, share a yeah. I will be what I will be, in future tense. And what we said yesterday is that the God of redemption is not one that forgets the past, but is the one that allows us to look at the future. Because in order to be able to redeem ourselves, to move forward, we need to be able also to look forward. if we are just looking back, so we are prisoners of our past. And I wanted to make this distinction between being mindful of my past and being a prisoner of my past. I think that that's an important distinction to keep in mind. And I will say one more thing, that the God of the future also requires flexibility, right? Requires uncertainty, requires trust. Because we know what happened in the past, or we believe we know, right? We don't always know exactly, but we have an idea. We don't exactly know what's going to happen in the future. So there's a component of uncertainty that we need to embrace. Now, going back to this idea of faith, I wanted to share a very short idea, short or small, but nonetheless very important, that there is in this Torah portion. This Torah portion, true, Joseph is the one who dies. Moshe is the hero, and Pharaoh is the bad guy. But the real heroes of this Torah portion are actually 5 women. The real heroes of this Torah portion are 5 women. The first 2 are the midwives, Shifra and Pua, Ameyaldot. Why? Well, they got a direct order. They were supposed to kill the male babies. They got a direct order from who? From the executive power. Pharaoh, the king, told them what to do, and they were supposed to execute that order. And they couldn't do that. And why they couldn't do that? Mipnei irat Adonai, because they fear God. But the word ira means also lirot, to see. They fear God. And now, Pharaoh was like a god. But what the story tells us, that even when an institution, a person presents itself as a god, there are values that are even more important. And these 2 individuals had the courage to see beyond, to be fearful of their own values. And therefore, they practice what we call civil disobedience. Civil disobedience. In understanding that they were breaking the law. And what happens after that? Who are the other 2 heroes? Well, Miriam is a hero in this story. And I always like to ask, just to encourage you to do some more Jewish study. And what's the name of Moshe's mother? Okay, I see a few lips articulating the word, and they were right. Yocheved. Miriam and Yocheved. They are heroes too. They also practice civil disobedience. And we know the story, right? They give birth, Yocheved gives birth to Moshe, and she sends Miriam to take care of her little sibling. And so she does. Now, who is the 5th hero? Bat Paro. Bat Paro, the daughter of Pharaoh. The daughter of Pharaoh, she gets it. She understands that she's breaking the law. She understands that she's ignoring a direct order of her father. Like, who else would be throwing babies to the water? Like, she finds the baby, and then she has an encounter with this Hebrew girl, Miriam, who offers to bring a Hebrew woman to nurse this baby that she is going to adopt. And that woman that will nurse that baby is his own mother, Yocheved, that comes into the palace to do that. So 5 women, 5 real heroes. And I want to focus for a moment, and this is an act of disobedience. And every time I think about this Torah portion, I can't avoid thinking about Hasidei Umot HaOlam, the righteous of all nations. Particularly when we think about Bat Parot, those that saved Jews during the Holocaust, that risked their own lives in order to have Jewish babies with them and to allow them grow and to allow them to have a life. And not just babies, also adults. And when thinking about that, I go back to the reason for which the 2 midwives practice disobedience. The Torah says they feared God. And I don't like the word fear. I don't think that is a good translation. The word ira, which we translate as fear, also comes from the verb lirot, to see. And I think that those that sometimes have the strength to risk their lives to practice civil disobedience, to challenge the system from between the system, not by trying to break the system, but from inside the system, are those that have the ability to see ira, beyond. And even when they are fearful, they understand that some values, that life, for example, comes first. Don't confuse civil disobedience with insurrection. That's different. Insurrection is to break the system. Civil disobedience is to challenge the system, understanding the consequences from inside. And I think that in this week of so much confusion, and I think that defiance and is an important value, and that challenging sometimes our laws and questioning them is an important practice, but also to keep our system and to see beyond is an important practice as well. Let's get started with the reading of Parashat Shemot. We will have pretty much our normal circle. We have people that will be coming up to the Torah, and we have the Torah reading. We have readers. Miriam, would you be, Rabbi Miriam, would you be fine acting as our Gavai? I just call the fourth the Maftir. I will call the Maftir, which is Jimmy, and you go with all the rest.
Yamdu, Raphael Shmuel ben Moshe Yosef HaKohen. Calling to the Torah to read is Mark Filowitz, and the blessing will be done by Bob Cohen.
Great. Orku et Adonai Havra, Ruk Adonai Harak Le'elam Voed, Ruk Adonai, Ata Adonai, Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Ashar Boka Bana Mikol Halmin, V'natan Lano et Torto, Ruk Ata Adonai Notain HaTorah.
You gave me reading number 2, Miriam.
I gave you both 1 and 2.
All right, I'll take it.
Okay.
Amen. Ba'ele Shemot B'nai Yisrael Habayim Mitzrayim Et Yaakov Yishuvei Toba'u Uvein Shimon Levi Yehuda Yisasvachar Sivulo Uvin Yamin Dan V'Naftali Gad V'Asher.
Done? Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher notan lanu Torah emet. V'hagei olam notokeinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yamdu Sheni Ben Sion Ben Baruch B'Tzipora Barry Klatzker.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Vahed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayehi kol nefesh yotzei yerech Yaakov. Shivim nafesh v'Yosef haya b'Mitzrayim. V'yama Yosef v'chol achav v'chol hador hahu. B'nei Yisrael paru v'yishertzu v'yirbu v'yatzmu v'mod meod v'timle haaretz otam.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chaye olam nota b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For the blessings for the third Aliyah, which will be done by Evelyn Bell, we call to the Torah Marilyn and Richard Spielberg.
Baruch atah Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Vaed.
Baruch atah Hamvarach Le'olam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'chabonu mikol ha'amin, v'natan lanu et Torah. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayikom melech hadash al Mitzarim asher lo yada et Yosef v'yomer el amot hene ha'am b'nei Israel ravat saum mimenu hava nitzama lo penyer ben Yaakin tekerina milama vinosa gomhu al son enu vinyalam banhanu vaha min aretz.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan bohu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
And for the maftir, But before the maftir, we'll take a moment to acknowledge all those that came up to the Torah and to do Misheberach. Before we read the maftir, we say, Misheberach אבותינו ואמותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב, שרה רבקה רחל ולאה, הוא יברך all those who came up to the Torah in honor of the Torah, in honor of our community, in honor of Shabbat. May they merit from the Holy One blessing of protection, rescue from any trouble or distress, and from any illness, minor or serious. May God send blessing and success in all your endeavors together with all Israel. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
We also take a moment to acknowledge those that are dealing with illness. If you have a name that you'd like to share, please do so in the comments on Facebook, on YouTube, in the chat section here in Zoom. משברך אבותינו ואמותינו, אברהם יצחק ויעקב, שרה רבקה רחל ולאה. We יברך את החולים, and the one who blessed our ancestors will bless those who are ill. May the Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and for their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
We wish to all of them רפואה שלמה והחלמה מהירה. And now, yes, for the maftir, we will invite Jimmy. Jimmy, you don't have a Hebrew name yet. We'll take care of that in a minute. And we say, but we call you with your parents, who actually do have a Hebrew name. We say, Yamdu, Yahamdu, Laliat Amaftir, Abraham Esther, Ben, Abraham Sarah, Bat, Abraham Sarah, Jimmy, who will have in a minute a recognized Hebrew name, Ben Abraham Esther. Jimmy, do you have a name that you want? You actually mentioned that to me, and it was Eliyahu. Elisha. Eliyahu. So Eliyahu. Yes, Shemo Israel, his name in the people of Israel, for the people of Israel, will be Eliyahu ben Abraham Esther. So Jimmy had a Beit Din a few weeks ago. I don't even know. Time is so random now. But it happened a few weeks ago. And the mikvah closed. But thanks to the efforts of a bunch of Jews, we were able to have him going to the ocean to do Tbilah. Rabbi Daniel was physically present there. His parents were there, and I was virtually present. So he's a new wonderful addition to our people. We want to invite you to do an aliyah to the Torah. And the reason we invite you to an aliyah to the Torah is because when you say a blessing on behalf of the community, it means that the community, exactly as we do in a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, recognizes you as an adult, as a leader, as someone who can speak on behalf of. You can speak on behalf of the Jewish people. You don't speak about the Jewish people. You are the Jewish people. And so, with that, Yamod, Elisha, Ben, Abraham, Esther, once again, La Torah, let them maftir. You can just read.
Baruch et Adonai Ham-Varach.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Leolam Ba'ed.
Baruch Ata Adonai Baruch Adonai Ham-Varach Leolam Ba'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol HaOlam Ha'amim ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני, נותן התורה.
Amen. And he's reading Torah. Who is reading Torah? Mike Bell. But he needs to be allowed to unmute himself. For that we have Zachary Richter. I cannot do that myself.
Amen. Vayashav Moshe el Adonai. Vayomer Adonai lama harotam. La'am hazeh lama zeh shalachtanihi. V'mi'az beitihi el faro. Ledaber b'shamecha hera le'am hazeh. V'hatzel hitzalach tetamecha. Vayomer Adonai al Moshe, Ata tireh asher esehe lefaro, ki bayad hazakaha yashalehem ve'ubayad hazakaha yagarashehem me'ortso.
יישר כוח. שימי,
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורה אמת וחיים עולם נטע בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני
נותן התורה. Amen. So, I would like to do two things. First, Abraham and Esther, can you stand behind your son?
Yeah.
And you sit, Jimmy. You sit. We're gonna treat you like a child for a moment. we know you are not a child, but we will use the opportunity that you are with your parents. And can you put his tallit above his head and your hands? Don't completely hide him. We want to see him. We do want to see him. Yeah, the child will survive that. But put your hands just like this. Look at this. Just like this. More complicated than what you thought. And put your hands on top of his head. Like this. Here we go. And we will say to Jimmy, may you be blessed with an enduring embrace. May you find only loving, open arms in any synagogue or community you walk through. May you find reflections of yourself, your stories of triumph and struggle, and of people around you in Jewish text and history. May your curiosity for Jewish learning be driven by all that you find when you look. May you find solace, love, wonder, and hope in prayer. May you be guided by the paths of righteousness that have been paved before you. May you wrestle with all the multifaceted teachings and wisdom that you are inheriting. May you feel responsibility in building a vibrant, complex, and abundant Jewish future. I have lots of ideas of how you do that. We'll talk about that later. And may you feel always at home in our community. May you find that home is inside yourself, and may you internalize, may you know that the Jewish dialogue is not anymore something that happens somewhere else, but it's something that comes through you. You are a voice in a 2,000-year-old tradition of dialogue. We are older than that. The tradition of dialogue, the tradition of arguing around text, the tradition of bringing different voices is a central part of who we are, of what we are, and we need your voice. Mom and Dad, put your hands once again on top of his head, and you will repeat after me in English, okay? And because he's your child, we'll do it slightly different of how I would do that. We will say, Yasimecha Elohim Kefraim Bekemenashe. May God, repeat after me, may God inspire you to be like Ephraim and Menashe. Yevarechecha Adonai beishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you.
May God bless you and keep you.
May God's light shine upon you.
God's light shine upon you.
And may God be gracious to you.
May God be gracious to you.
May you feel God's presence.
May you feel God's presence
within you always.
Within you always.
And may you find peace.
May you find peace.
ויברכך אדוני וישמרך. יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך. יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך shalom. May you find peace and wholeness. And now, yes, we can say, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. We thank God for this moment, for this time, and for the opportunity of witnessing this chapter in your life, this beginning in your life. ברוך אתה, אדוני אלוהינו, מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה, אדוני אלוהינו, מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה, לזמן הזה. Mazel tov, mazel tov, ay 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 ay, mazel tov, ay 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 ay, zimento, ay ay ay, yelanu, yelanu, oh lechol am Yisrael, David melech, melech Yisrael, David melech, melech Yisrael, David melech, melech Yisrael, chai chai vekayal. Oy, 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 mazel tov. Oy, 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 ma'amen tov. Oy, 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 yelanu, yelanu, ulechol am Yisrael. I wish we were dancing with you there. I hope that we will be dancing, physically dancing together very soon. In the meantime, we are dancing in Zoom and with our hearts there. We are so, so glad, so, so glad. We feel so fortunate to have you with us. You are such a joy. It's such a good thing to study Torah with you, to have you in our community. I feel privileged to be members with you of the same community. Mazal tov, mazal tov, mazal tov, mazal tov. We will now... You can put the tide in your shoulders once again if you feel more comfortable. We will now we'll do it next week. I wanted to get back to our custom of studying something else after Torah, and I'm prepared to do that today. But we will do it next week. And I have an idea of what to study, and the reason we are going to do later. Because I want to allow time for you to offer ideas. What book we can read together in Shabbos morning? A few verses of it. We already have Pirkei Avot. We did 2 years ago. Last year we did Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We didn't finish, but we were pretty deep into Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We were studying Jewish law. And I have an idea for this year. And once again, I won't share it right now because I don't want to condition your ideas. But if you want to, who say Musar? Miriam say Musar, that could be an idea. If you want, if we read Musar, so I would take that for example, to Mesilat Yesharim. So I will go to a book that has more than 300 years old. I will go to something, it's a reminder of Haftarah. So Musar could be a good idea. So send me your ideas, and I will try to come up with something in conversation with you. Just once again, for a 3-minute study, the 2-minute study after the Torah Rim. And now, yes, as we start to descend, we're on page 586. Behashevota elevavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim Behashevotam אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. At this point of our service, we take a moment to acknowledge our mourners. We are not yet saying Kaddish for Noah Schultz, son of Susan Schultz and Harris Schultz. But we are certainly thinking of Susan, of Harris, and of course of Noah. I just yesterday saw a picture of Noah and Susan in our trip to Israel, the two of them on a camel, like sitting in a camel, things that you do when you go to Israel. And it reminded me what a joy was spending time with Noah. Another memory that came back to my mind was that the first night when we arrived to Israel, we went directly to Haifa in 2017. And from all the people in the world, I ended up in a bar in the middle of the night, drinking with Noah, Mindy, and Chuck Gladstein. And it was one of the best moments in the trip. Like, it was so much fun. And while we are embedded by the pain of the loss, I hope that gradually memories of love and joy start to fill the hearts of those who love him, the hearts of his parents, and we pray that they find some comfort in the memories of their beloved song. We think also of for our mourners, all those that are thinking of someone who they lost. We think of those that are during the first 7 days of mourning. We think of our own Barry Kansigor, and Ed Goldstein. We think of those during the Shloshim. And Sheldon, where is Evelyn? Was here, right? Where is Evelyn? Here you are. We think of Evelyn's father, Sheldon, who passed away also last week. At the age of, how old was your dad?
91. He just celebrated his 91st birthday on December 27th.
So we think of Sheldon, the father of Evelyn. We think of those during the Shloshim, and as we think of all of them, we invite you to share the names of your people in the comments on Facebook, YouTube, Zoom. We think of those during the Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning, and of course we think of Susan Schwartz, mourning her husband Marvin, and of course we think of Judy Mandel and our beloved Jack Mandel. We think of those during the cycle of the first year of mourning. We see there Elaine Sokol. Well, we think of Harvey. Mark, you are there. We're thinking of your brother too, Harry Filowitz. And of course, we think of all those that are remembering a yortzeit this week. We invite you also to share the names of your beloved ones in the comment section. I also remember in the yortzeit of my mom, who falls between this week and next week, Rishon of Shabbat, the first of Shabbat. As we stand, those that need to say Kaddish and those that feel like standing, for mourners Kaddish, on page 598, as we pray to find hope, to experience once again that love that filled our lives. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמה דברה חירותה, בהמליך מלכותה, בחייכון ובמכון, ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, באמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולמי עלמיה. יתברך, וישתבח, ויתפאר, ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתהדר, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה, בריחו. לילה מן כל ברכתה, בשירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירם בעלמה, באמרו אמן. יש למה רבה מן שמיה, בחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, באמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, באמרו אמן. May the memories of those who we love be always present in our lives. יהיה זכרם ברוך. May we see that. We are about to conclude our service. Miriam, I have to admit that you got me excited thinking about Mesilat Yesharim, studying Musar. So we might, it looks like a strong lead. But we invite you, we encourage you to share your ideas, your opinion. We want to know, it's a 3 minute of Torah Lishma, a study for the sake of a study in the service at the end, just 3 minutes. We are going to open our Sidurim on page, I'm so glad you're here, page 632. I want you to take a look. You know, Noga, can you read it in English? So we are starting the book of Shemot. We are introduced to Moshe, and we are introduced also to Torah, right? Like Torah as a concept doesn't exist in the book of Genesis. Starts in the book of Shemot. So can you read the words of Ein Nadir in English 1 second? No, just clarification. Amram is Yochevet's husband. And who was Yocheved? Moshe's mother, right. I saw you back. Good. Great. So can you read that? It just said in a week in which, anti-Semitism wasn't the center of what happened this week in this country, certainly not. But there were some anti-Semite tropes that were strongly articulated. And we have this space to wish blessing to ourselves. So can you just read and then we will sing it.
From the mouth of God, all of Israel is blessed. There is none as mighty as God. No one is blessed as Amram's son. Nothing great as the Torah, and no interpreter is like Israel. There is none as glorified as God. No one as pious as Amram's son. Nothing as pure as the Torah, and no scholar is like Israel. There is none as pure as God. No one equal to Amram's son. Nothing as mighty as the Torah, and no students like Israel. There is none who can redeem like God. No one as righteous as Amram's son. Nothing as holy as the Torah, and no supporters like Israel.
And so nobody loves you more than your mother, right? So this is we conclude our service giving some love to ourselves. So some embrace to ourselves with this very popular hymn. And the melody is very simple, so try to sing with us. I forgot, sorry. We have a different key for this. מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל.
מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל. אין עדי כאדוני, ואין ברוך כבן עמרם. אין גדולה כתורה, ואין דרשניה כישראל.
מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל. מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל. אין ארור כאדוני, אין בהתי כבן עמרם. אין צדקה כתורה, בין חכמיה כישראל. מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל. מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל.
אין טהור כאדוני, ואין יחיד כבן עמרם. אין כבירה כתורה, ואין למדניה כישראל.
מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל. מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל. אין פודק אדוני, אין צדיק כבן עמרם. אין קדושה כתורה, אין תומכיה כישראל. מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל. מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל. יאללה לה לה, יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה לה, יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה לה, יאללה לה לה, יאללה לה לה, יאללה לה. מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל. אדוני יוס לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. שבת שלום everyone. Good Shabbos. מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל. יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה 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 לה, יאללה לה לה, יאללה לה לה לה, יאללה לה, יאללה לה. מפיאל, יבורך כל ישראל.